Hello, I'm Kim Bailey. Welcome back to my 4 easy steps to entering your first floral art competition. Here is step 2, planning your design. Now we're ready to start the planning of your design. Any good plan and its development deserves to be recorded. The more detailed you can make your planning record, the more useful it will be to you, both when you are staging the design in the competition room and also in the years to come when you're researching for more competition work. You'll remember that one of the bonuses with this video is a design planning template. I'd be delighted if you found this a useful tool for your design planning. You'll see it in action as I work through the examples in this step. So to step 2, planning your design. What tasks do we need to do for this step? We need to research the class title and meaning. We need to research the design style, particularly if this is part of the class description. If it's not, then we need to choose a design style. Drawing the design, working out the mechanics and the plant material we'll need for the design, constructing either a scale model or a full version to practice putting the design together, timing the construction of the design, and constructing any work that is allowed to be pre-prepared. You can see there's lots to do, so let's get a start. Firstly, the class title. You already had a reaction to this. It's probably why you chose this class in the first place. If not, or if you feel you need a bit more background, do some research, as I said earlier. Every year I enter more than 50 designs in floral art competitions. Not every design or idea is instant. Sometimes it's the day before a competition before I'm happy with a design. And other times it's as soon as I see that class title I know what I want to produce as a design. Start planning your design by writing down your first impressions of the class title. These first impressions do not have to be about flowers or plants. They are your first thoughts when you see the class title. Do some more research on the class title if you have not yet decided on an approach for your design. Check out the dictionary, some art, some poetry. Ask others what their reaction is to the class title. In fact, when I've done this, asking others, I've always been given an idea that I would not have thought of myself. A word of warning from experience again, don't try to be too clever with your interpretation of the class title. The judges will be looking for designs that tell the story of the title clearly. In other words, when they see your design, their reaction to it should be the class title. Take note of all the words in a class title. For instance, if a class was rough with the smooth or bold and beautiful, the judges would expect to see both those characteristics expressed in your design. Similarly, and again from experience, with the title Jack in the Box, the judge took this literally to mean in the box, so that any design that resembled the toy of the same name, like mine, was not marked as highly as those where the designs were in the box. Competition work is a combination of design style and class title interpretation. When a class title has a descriptor interpretive in the design, you'll be allowed a bit more freedom to tell the story with your plant material. If it doesn't say an interpretive design, you will need to be mindful of the reality of the class title and the appropriate design style. Here's an example to make it a bit clearer. The design on the left with the drum is an interpretive design. It incorporates a musical instrument as the title requires. However, the musical instrument is not a real or actual musical instrument, but rather a plant material version of one. The design on the right has an actual musical instrument incorporated into the rest of the design, and that's the chanter at the base of the bagpipe representation. The judges determined that as the schedule did not call for an interpretive design, the one on the left could not be awarded a prize. If I had placed some actual maracas or even covered the top of the drum with leather instead of moss, it would have been given the championship. Both were my designs, so I had to settle for second place for the bagpipes. Lesson reinforced about reading the schedule carefully. Here now is an example where the schedule nominates the design style. It's a miniature abstract. This means that within the restrictions of the miniature design style, I need to also represent an abstract design conforming to the abstract design specifications within the class title that's different. Let's move on then to design styles. In some schedules, the design style required will be named. If it's not specified, Think about the various styles and find some images of prize-winning examples of those styles. These design styles will be defined in the Judging Handbooks, the same document we went looking for in Step 1. Look at the definitions of the design styles and choose one that supports the class title. When a design style is indicated in the class title, research both the definition and the appropriate plant material, particularly if this is a period piece, as in the example of a Greek period design shown here. The design style definitions tell us that designs of this period had simplicity, symmetry of form, and they were wreaths, garlands and swags, but very few vases were used. It also stipulates that the plant material for that period is roses, violets, cornflowers, olive, oak, grape and aromatic herbs such as rosemary, mint and marjoram. Most of these I have used in this swag design. When the design style is not indicated, how do you choose one? What you want to do is select a style that will help you tell the story for the judges, particularly when the plant material for that style is also defined. Your initial research about the class title should help with determining the appropriate design style, not just the design itself, but also the containers or vases to be used. Here now are two examples of the same class title using different design styles. The class title was Waste into Art. The design on the left is a contemporary design, meaning it's showing techniques and trends that are at the leading edge of floral art today, or when it was done. The design on the right is a modern style, clean, clear lines and a minimum of plant material. Based on research of the class title, you should select the design style for your entry and then select a secondary style for a fallback position in case you have issues when developing the actual design itself. Here's another example of a class title where you can select the design style yourself. The design on the left uses the contemporary style and the one on the right is a modern style. Now we're ready to draw a sketch of the design. It really does help to get what you have in your head onto paper, and it doesn't matter a jot how well you think you can draw. It's not about your sketching prowess, it's about having an outline of how you see the design. It's also invaluable if you need to do some disaster recovery, as I needed to do at the latest World Flower Show in Dublin, where my whole design had to be rethought once I actually arrived in Dublin because none of my structure or mechanics arrived with me. Draw the outline to see how your finished design will appear. It doesn't have to be perfect. Add notes for specific details like colours, mechanics or places for water sources, and include what you will use as a base or other staging embellishments and drapes if you're going to use them. Anything you think you will need for this design. Let's now have a look at mechanics and particularly water sources for your plant material within your design. When we're not necessarily working with flowers every day, we need to be disciplined about water sources for our plant material in a design. The judges will look to see how the water is being supplied to your plant material, as well as how the actual design is supported. The use of floral foam in competitions is being replaced by test tubes, wet moss or sand, and even balloons filled with water. Be confident of innovation in choosing a water source for your plant material if your design needs it. With your sketch as a base, under the headings of plant material, mechanics, special or feature mechanics, and water sources, list all the required materials for each of those headings. In this example, where I'm depicting the fairy tale Rapunzel, you can see I've started my list of requirements made with the sketch of the design in front of me. The three tasks we have just covered form the basis for the design planning template I've included with this video. Let's have a look at our examples then, using the design template. Here is example 1, citrus, glass and grass. In the first column, I've written down my first impressions of the class title: orange juice, picnics, supermarket displays of fruit, orchards. Then thinking about the design style that's appropriate for this class title or suggested by the class title, in the first column you can see that I've put a note about glass being considered for modern designs. So the design style being indicated to me is modern, meaning clean lines and a minimum of plant material. This is reinforced when I think of the grass that could be used for the design. This will also have very definite lines. Now I recheck the size allocation for this class and think about how I can best use that space. I decided to present an implied geometric shape, a rectangle, to reinforce the lines of what is developing into a modern design. My notes indicate that the design will have 3 levels, where glass is shown as the container and the grass will be a line feature with the colours of the citrus providing interest to the design. We need now to sketch how we see the design, remembering this is a sketch, not a work of art. Then onto the listing of all the requirements for the design. Looking at the sketch, we list all the plant material required, which you can see in the 3rd column. In fact, I've listed everything I'll need, not just the plant material. Here's our 2nd example, Anything Goes. My first impression of the title here, 2 things. Anything Goes is a famous musical with an equally famous song of the same title. My other reaction is that it seems that the current trends in floral art are just that, anything goes. The design style is a challenge to myself because I find the difference between modern and contemporary designs confusing. I decided I'll go with a contemporary design to match my reaction to the class title. I also felt this would provide a point of difference to the other exhibitors, as most would go with the musical or the song title. Checking the sizing. The base width here is 80 centimetres with an unrestricted height, so I can use a good vertical space for the design. I'll need to think carefully about the structural support for a design of those dimensions. Research. Having decided on a contemporary design and using the class title, I can incorporate a variety of contemporary techniques, but I need to ensure that the final design is not just a showcase of too many differing features. Rhythm and repetition in the design will be important. Draw a sketch. Yes, I can do that. Sketch it anyway. Plant material. I have a beautiful piece of thick twisted vine that can form the backdrop of this design. Keeping the rhythm and repetition in mind, I need to use other plant material that can be manipulated or is naturally twisted in similar lines to the vine. Contemporary techniques for incorporating the plant material will be a major part of this design. Practice. Absolutely. For a design this size, I need to know how long it will take and whether in fact it will actually support itself. I also need to practice the contemporary techniques like waxing and spiderwebbing, as these are still in my developing skills area. An important task that can be overlooked in the excitement of planning for your first floral art competition is practicing with either a scale model or a full-size version of your design. Either way, it's vital to get proportions correct and determine sizes and colours of the plant material you are thinking of using. What looks perfect in your drawing may prove very challenging when you start putting it together, and this is something you do not want to discover on competition day. When you are attempting a large design, prepare a scale model to start with. This will help you determine actual balance as well as visual balance before trying a full-size version. I do recommend that with any size design you practice with a full-size version to ensure the mechanics, stability, size, proportion are the best they can be. A benefit of preparing a practice version is that you can time the construction. You need to know both how long your design will take and what order you should attempt the construction. All competitions have strictly enforced staging times and may also have defined rules about pre-prepared work, which generally should not predominate your exhibit and which I talked about in step 1 when you were reading the show schedule. Prepare your design under competition conditions by timing the actual construction as though you were in the competition room. Keep a note of any items that could be prepared beforehand and check the show schedule for rules on pre-prepared work. Make sure that any items you can pre-prepare will not dominate your design. Redesign or rethink the parts of your design that can't be done in the time allowed for staging. Now here is a series of photos of me practicing construction of a wind spinner the night before a competition on a very convenient hotel bed. I can tell you I have fond memories of nights before practice, my favourite being balancing of a 1.8 metre mobile from the ceiling light of a room so that I could watch the cricket at the same time. Very Australian, I know, but let's get back to the wind spinner. I had practiced this design before, but I wanted to be as prepared as I possibly could be for the competition. So I ran through the construction again the night before staging. I've laid out all the pieces, checked to see that they are sized together correctly, then laid out the full wind spinner without connecting it before repacking ready for the competition. I have to confess though that even with all this practice, I had not checked that all the holes in the bamboo arms were drilled in the same or correct place. I did discover this when staging the design and improvised a way of making a new hole so that it would balance properly. Let's get back to your preparation now. Now you can construct any work that is allowed to be pre-prepared. Do a little bit extra so that breakages or damage in transport can be minimised. You need to be mindful that this pre-prepared work will not predominate your design, as this will generally lose you some points, and at worst will have you marked as NAS or not according to schedule, which means your design will not be judged, although it may be left on display. Most competitions these days allow for some work to be prepared before staging. If it's not mentioned in the show schedule, make sure you ask the show organisers. Here's an example of a design with some pre-prepared work. The base of the design is a cardboard box covered in bark. I could not have prepared this in the allocated staging time because of the drying time I needed for the glue that attached the bark, so it was made ahead of the competition day. You can see that in the finished design, the box does not predominate the whole design, so it was judged. Well, that's all the steps in task 2, planning your design. Let me summarise them for you before we go on to step 3, transporting your design. So when planning your design, you need to research the class title meaning, research the design styles, particularly when this is a part of the class title. Choose a design style if you have the opportunity to. Draw the design. Work out the mechanics, plant material, water sources, remembering that all the tasks up to this point should be recorded either using the template here or a notebook, or a system that works for you. Construct a scale model and a full version for practice. Time your construction under competition conditions. You really do not want to be building a design for the first time at your first competition. By practicing the construction of your design, you can work out how long it will take, what areas need special attention or time, what mechanics you can use, what sections might need adjustment, and so on. Just like any other activity, practice makes perfect. Construct any work that is allowed to be pre-prepared within the rules from the show schedule. Well, we're halfway there. Ready for the next step? That's step 3, transporting your design.